Rent is dead money. You've definitely heard that before. It might be the single most repeated piece of financial advice in the UK. But it's not always true, and treating it as gospel could lead you to make a worse financial decision than simply renting and investing the difference. This video is not going to tell you renting is better or buying is better. It is going to give you the real UK numbers for 2026 and a simple framework so you can work out which one is actually right for your situation. No bias, just the maths. Let's deal with this phrase first, because it shapes so much of how people think about this decision. The argument goes like this. When you rent, your monthly payment disappears, benefiting your landlord. When you buy, your monthly payment builds equity, benefiting you. Therefore, buying is always better. This sounds logical, but it ignores several important factors. First, mortgage interest is also dead money. In the early years of a repayment mortgage, the vast majority of your monthly payment goes towards interest, not paying down the actual loan. On a typical UK mortgage, it can take 10 to 15 years before more than half of your payment is going towards capital rather than interest. Second, owning a home comes with costs that renting does not. Maintenance, repairs, buildings insurance, and in many cases service charges or ground rent. These are real costs that reduce the financial benefit of ownership. Third, and this is the part most people miss entirely, if renting is cheaper than buying in your situation, the difference can be invested. And depending on how that money grows, renting and investing the difference can sometimes outperform buying financially. None of this means buying is a bad decision. It means the phrase rent is dead money oversimplifies a genuinely complex financial comparison. Let's run actual numbers using a realistic UK example. Take a £250,000 property. The average UK rent for an equivalent property is currently around £1,100 to £1,300 per month, depending on location, so we'll use £1,200 as our example. Buying that same property with a 10% deposit of £25,000 on a 25-year repayment mortgage at a current average rate of around 4.8%, gives you a monthly mortgage payment of approximately £1,290. On the surface, that looks fairly close to renting, but buying comes with additional monthly costs that renting typically does not. Buildings insurance averages around £20 to £30 per month. Maintenance and repairs are generally estimated at 1% of the property value per year, which works out to roughly £208 per month on a £250,000 property, though this varies significantly year to year. Some years you'll spend nothing. Other years a boiler or roof repair could cost thousands at once. Adding maintenance and insurance to the mortgage payment brings the realistic monthly cost of owning that £250,000 property closer to £1,520 to £1,550 per month, compared to £1,200 for renting the equivalent property. That is a real monthly difference of around £300 to £350 in favour of renting in this specific example. The crucial point is that this gap varies enormously depending on location, property type, and current mortgage rates. In some areas and circumstances, buying genuinely is cheaper monthly than renting. This is not a universal rule. You need to run your own numbers for your own situation. Beyond the ongoing monthly costs, there are upfront and occasional costs of home ownership that catch a lot of first-time buyers out. Stamp duty, where applicable above the first-time buyer threshold. Solicitor and conveyancing fees, typically £1,500 to £3,000. Survey costs, typically £300 to £700. Removal costs, and often costs to furnish or improve a property to your taste once you own it, rather than living with a landlord's choices. Then there are the larger, less predictable costs. A new boiler can cost £2,000 to £4,000. A new roof can cost £5,000 to £10,000 or more. Damp problems, subsidence or structural issues can run into tens of thousands in serious cases. As a renter, all of these costs are the landlord's responsibility. As an owner, they're entirely yours. This is not meant to scare you away from buying. Most years, most homeowners will not face major unexpected costs. But it is important to budget for the possibility, typically by maintaining a separate house maintenance fund alongside your regular emergency fund. Renting is generally the stronger financial choice in a few specific situations, if you are not planning to stay in one location for at least 5 years. Buying involves significant upfront costs, including stamp duty and solicitor fees, that need time to be offset by the benefits of ownership. Moving within a few years of buying can mean you lose money once these costs are factored in. If property prices in your target area are very high relative to local rents. In parts of London and the southeast, the gap between renting and buying costs can be substantial, making renting the more efficient choice while investing the difference. If you value flexibility over stability, career changes, relationship changes, or simply wanting the freedom to move easily are all valid reasons that renting may suit your life stage better, independent of the pure financial maths. If you would genuinely invest the difference rather than spend it, the rent and invest the difference strategy only works if you actually invest the difference consistently. If renting simply means that money gets spent rather than invested, the financial argument for renting weakens considerably. Buying tends to make stronger financial sense in these situations. If you're planning to stay in the same property for 10 years or more, the longer your time horizon, the more the upfront costs of buying are spread out, and the more your mortgage payments shift from interest towards equity. If local rents are high relative to property prices, which is the case in many parts of the north of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, in these areas, monthly mortgage costs can be meaningfully lower than renting an equivalent property. If you want certainty over your housing costs, a fixed rate mortgage gives you predictable payments for the term of the deal. Rent can increase year on year, sometimes significantly, particularly in high demand areas. If building equity matters to your long-term financial plan. For many people, the forced saving discipline of a mortgage payment, combined with property appreciation over time, is a meaningful part of building long-term wealth, even accounting for the costs we've covered. Here's a simple framework to apply to your own situation. Work out your realistic, all-in monthly cost of buying, including mortgage, insurance, and an estimated maintenance allowance. Compare that to the realistic monthly rent for an equivalent property in the same area. If buying is cheaper or similar monthly, and you plan to stay 5 years or more, buying is very likely the stronger choice. If renting is meaningfully cheaper monthly, the decision comes down to whether you would genuinely invest that difference consistently and whether you value the stability and equity building of ownership enough to accept a higher monthly cost for it. There is no universally correct answer. There is only the correct answer for your specific numbers, your specific timeline, and your specific priorities. To bring it all together, rent is not automatically dead money, and buying is not automatically the smarter financial choice. The real comparison depends on your local market, your mortgage rate, your timeline, and your own discipline with money. Run the actual numbers for your situation rather than relying on a phrase you've heard repeated for years. Whichever you choose, make sure it is a decision based on your numbers, not a slogan. If this video helped you think through the renting versus buying decision more clearly, subscribing takes 2 seconds and means you won't miss a video. We post twice a week on making your money work harder in the UK, and that wraps up our first time buyer series for now. Next up, we're moving into pensions, starting with exactly what your workplace pension actually means and where your money goes.